What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for another week. It's the 2018 offseason, week 3. I've got the crew with me. I got David Stoyo in Canada,
What's up?
and I got Gavin Heslop in Oregon.
Hello, hello.
And we got tons to talk about this week, all kinds of news breaking in the NFL. We're going to start with Gavin's team, the Detroit Lions, franchise tag Ziggy Ansah, their star defensive end. It's 17.5 mil franchise tag. Last season he had 12 sacks, 44 tackles through 14 games. Their GM Bob Quinn calls it a quote easy decision, and the team has until July 16 if they want to offer Anza a long-term contract. Gavin, do you believe this is a good move for your team going forward?
Yeah, I think that was the right move. He's that has dealt with a little bit of injuries, but I think he's got a lot of potential still. He's only 28, so he's still got a couple years ahead of him. And you need to keep some pressure on the quarterback as much as possible. And he's really the only decent pass rusher that the Lions has. And your 12 sacks isn't record breaking by any means, but it's still really good for only 14 games. So you can't sign him to a long-term deal. You need to make sure and keep him around and try and keep him motivated and possibly try and re-sign him even this offseason to something for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, he's been a pain in our ass in the NFC North. He's a pretty good pass rusher. I believe he had 6 sacks the final 2 games of the year. So if his upside is crazy. Stoya, what do you make of Ziggy Ansah in the division?
I'm not too worried about him. I think he's not that good anymore. He's over the hill. Those injuries just caught up to him. I think he's very fortunate that he got 6 sacks in the last 2 games, as you mentioned, when the season was pretty much over for the Lions. So those last 2 games are really going to make him a lot of money.
Yeah.
So perfect timing to pick up the two best game of the season for yourself.
Gavin, there's also a report that the Lions are considering shopping tight end Eric Ebron. Are you, as a Lions fan, are you prepared to let him go, or would you like to see him stay?
I'm totally fine with him leaving. I has all the potential and he's shown sparks of brilliance, but unless we can sign him to a small low medium end deal, I don't think he's worth paying any big money. He hasn't been a huge part of our offense, so I don't see I'm not too worried about him personally.
Yeah.
But I'd like to keep him around because I do think he has talent and definitely potential. But if it not at the cost of signing some depth at another position or signing a big free agent.
If you were going to replace Eric Ebron, would you want the Lions to take a look at Seahawks tight end Jimmy Graham?
I would not actually. I think he's going to command too much money.
Yeah.
So it kind of falls under the same umbrella for me. If it costs too much money, I don't want someone that doesn't produce, and that's kind of been Jimmy Graham's ever since he left New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah, not a great run blocking tight end. Um, in my opinion, we talked about AJ McCarron recently on the podcast and where he might end up and if he's starting quarterback material. In my opinion, I think it's pretty much a done deal that AJ McCarron is going to go to the Browns. He's got ties to head coach Hugh Jackson when he was in Cincy, and this would be an upgrade at quarterback from Deshaun Kaiser. And I would also draft a quarterback and have him sit behind McCarron. The Browns GM also said that they are open to trading the number 1 overall pick. Stoyo, do you think AJ McCarron would be a good fit in Cleveland, and what would you do to fix the Browns going forward?
To fix the Brown, I would sign Kirk Cousins. I would throw everything in the kitchen sink at Cousins and convince your left tackle to come back and draft Barkley as the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Then you have a great running back, a great lineman, and a good QB.
Yeah, I think that would be a good move on their part. Gavin, do you think that AJ McCarron could be starting caliber in the NFL if he was, especially in the Browns with Hugh Jackson?
I'm not sold on him. I think that he would be he'd be a pretty good bridge quarterback for a rookie that they draft this year. I wouldn't if I were the Browns organization, I wouldn't put my faith in someone that has NFL experience like that and hasn't shown terribly brightly. He hasn't been awful by any means, but he hasn't. I don't think he's wowed teams. Otherwise, I feel like there'd be more offers and more rumors surrounding him.
Yeah.
I'd rather put my future a Browns, a team that has been. I don't think they've had a good starting quarterback in my lifetime. So they need to get that position taken care of, and so I would say you either go for one of the higher end free agents this offseason or draft one of these quarterbacks in the draft and hope that they pan out. I'd rather miss on one of these rookies than miss on one of these free agents that's been a flash in the pan or hasn't even shown that much, but just has potential.
Yeah.
But I definitely think if they're able to get a quarterback before the draft, that would be the best because then they can get Barkley. I totally agree with Stoyo. That would be the way to go because then you can get a solid running game. They've got some good receivers there, and Corey Coleman and the guy whose name I can't remember who kept getting busted for weed from Baylor.
Josh Gordon.
That's the guy.
Yep.
They've got some talent there on the offensive side of the ball. If they can get a solid running game, they got Joe Thomas at left tackle. We're assuming he's supposed to announce here in the next couple of days what his plan is, unless he's done it already and I missed it. But if they can solidify a quarterback position and somehow get Barkley, that would be best case scenario for Cleveland.
Well, that being said, they have the 1 and 4 picks and open to trading one. So do you believe, Gavin, you're saying you would believe or you would trust one of these rookie quarterbacks coming out over someone like, not even McCarron, but someone like Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater? You'd rather draft one of these rookies?
It depends on what kind of deal you can get. Like if you can sign, McCarron or Keenum, or you trade for Foles for something that doesn't involve one of your first round picks, and sign them to something like a 2-3 year deal where you're not handicapped by that contract, then I would go with one of those because you don't want to sign Case Keenum to $25 million a year and find out that he's just as bad as he was everywhere except for Minnesota. So
yeah.
I would rather have someone where you're stuck with you got 4 years with a rookie contract. That's not a ton of money. Even the first overall pick these days isn't, it's not $15-16 million a year like it was, back when Stafford and Bradford were drafted. So I wouldn't mind. That's the biggest reason, I think. One, they're unknown, but you can get them on the cheap, and so you're not handicapped by that contract. And there's, I guess they're unknown, but I feel like there's more chance of finding something that you might not have expected than you would with one of these guys that hasn't been able to break into a starting role, unless Andy Dalton gets hurt and Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt. These are situations that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And so if they couldn't do it in camp and they played well in the season, that doesn't convince me.
You sound a lot like I did last year at this time when the Bears were bringing in Mike Glennon. All right. Speaking of a former Browns quarterback, Stoyo, free agent quarterback Johnny Manziel says in a Twitter post, quote, "I'll play again for free. It's not about the money. It's about getting back to doing what I miss and love." He also says he's willing to take a league minimum salary and start on the practice squad to prove his worth and recommitment to the game. Stoyo, are you rooting for Manziel to have a comeback to the league? And do you think it's worth a team bringing him on as like a third string quarterback this year?
I wish him all the success that he can have in the Canadian Football League or the XFL. He is not coming back to professional football.
Yeah. We'll see. What do you think on that, Gavin?
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to come back and be a starting quarterback. He wasn't, but even when he was playing, he wasn't that great. I don't know that having how many years he's been out of the league now? 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So I just don't see. Yeah, 2014 he was drafted. So I don't see someone that wasn't that great when he first came out, when he had been truly playing football for the last 2-3 years, at a high level. He couldn't play in the NFL then. I'm not sure how 2-3 years removed is going to have helped him in any way. I know he said he's willing to work up, and I've got nothing against the guy. I hope that it'd be a great story if he would come back. But if I have to be a realist, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'm going to be rooting for him. I think that he seems to be in a different spot mentally. He seems to be coming at it from the point that I'm going to prove everything, start at the bottom, and try to rebuild my career. I think that it's a good place to be. I think that, he's driven, he's trying to start over. It's good that he's finally seems to have his shit together, but we'll see if an NFL team wants to, give him a chance. It's a tough up-road hill. I mean, he had lots of opportunity before, and he kind of blew that. So he's got a tough road ahead of him. We'll see how that goes. The Kirk Cousins sweepstakes continues to go on. There's been reports that it's down to 2 teams between the Vikings and Jets, that the Broncos bailed on it because of too much money. Cousins has been a full-time starter for the Redskins the past 3 seasons. During that time, he's ranked top 10 in the NFL in passing yards, passer rating, and touchdowns. On a Twitter poll we did, saying the best fit for Kirk Cousins finished with 12 votes. 67% picked the Vikings. Broncos and Jets were tied with 17%. And somehow the Browns posted a negative 1%.
As only the Browns can do.
As only the Browns can do. Gavin, what do you think of? Do you think Cousins is most likely going to the Vikings?
I think that if his concern really is about winning, like he said, and it's not about the money, then I think he's going to end up in Minnesota. Out of all the teams that have or can get the cap space and also are needing a quarterback and have a chance to win, I think that the Vikings are definitely the best fit. They have the cap space to sign him now, and they're needing a starting quarterback as all 3 of their current quarterbacks are free agents. So I think that's the best fit there if he really cares about winning. If it's about the money, that guy needs to go to Cleveland. I'm telling you right now, if he wants the money, don't go to New York. Go to Cleveland. They've got 2 first-round draft picks. They can draft Saquon Barkley. They've already got Gordon and Coleman, like I've already mentioned.
Yeah.
They got Joe Thomas protecting your blind side. They can spend the other pick on a defensive player, and you'd be a god in Cleveland just by signing that contract. You wouldn't have to step on the field. And if you can actually turn that team around, even get them to the playoffs, you would be immortalized in that city for the rest of your life.
Yeah, this to me just it's kind of weird that the Browns aren't bigger players in this, and it seems like another typical Cleveland move when you got a quarterback of this caliber out there on the free agent market for anyone to pick up. Maybe they don't believe in themselves that a star quarterback would actually go to their team, but if I were the Browns, I'd be going all out for a guy like Kirk Cousins. What do you think, Stoyo?
I think if I was a GM of an NFL franchise that needs a QB, I would definitely sign Cousins.
Yeah.
I like him a lot more. He's still in his prime. Would you rather bet your championship window on a top 10 QB or risk it on a first-round rookie that who could develop, who may not develop. Out of those top 5 incoming freshmen, I believe that Cousins is much better. So
Yeah.
I would definitely prefer to overpay him than having to trade up and draft one of those new QBs coming into the league.
Yeah, and I hope that he doesn't end up in our division because that'll be a tough out. With that defense, Dalvin Cook coming back, and then you throw Cousins on that team. That's a crazy team and would be contenders just like that. Lots of news out here in Seattle. Crazy week for them. The Seahawks trade Pro Bowl defensive end Michael Bennett and a 7th-round pick to the Eagles for wide receiver Marcus Johnson and a 5th-round pick. The Seahawks are also set to release star corner Richard Sherman in the next couple days, and they're also believed to be shopping star free safety Earl Thomas. Part of the reason that the Seahawks felt comfortable moving on from Bennett was that they are believing in defensive end Dion Jordan, who only played 5 games last season but registered 4 sacks in those games. There seems to be a defense that's somewhat rebuilding. Seems to be Sheldon Richardson on the way out. Jeremy Lane just got cut. Lots of moving parts in Seattle. PTI's Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon predicted that Seattle is going to go 6-10 at best next season, which is quite a drop-off. Stoyo, what do you make of all the Seahawks moves?
I don't understand them. I think they're a few years too early. I think you deserve to give this team one more chance instead of closing your championship window in the offseason. Last year, you came a game within of making the playoffs with a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
I think you should have given it at least one more shot and lose in the playoffs at least one more time. You're about to waste Russell Wilson's prime, and this is not the correct time to rebuild. Go at least once more.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to me, like you said, with all the injuries last year. But it's kind of crazy that Michael Bennett at the end of the year last year said he didn't expect to be back. Earl Thomas was seen talking to the Cowboys head coach saying, "Come and get me." And Richard Sherman was telling people before it was broke that he was leaving and he was going to be gone. It's almost like these guys saw it coming before it happened. Gavin, what do you make of all the moves going on in Seattle?
Yeah, it's all happened all so fast that Bennett was gone. The rumors about
Sherman and Thomas.
Yeah, Sherman and Thomas all leaving. I mean, these are key parts of their defense, the Legion of Boom, that are suddenly supposedly not going to be part of the team anymore. And I had no idea that Dion Jordan was even on the Seahawks. He was such a bust in Miami, and anything after that, I'm kind of surprised he was able to amount to anything.
Yeah.
But I don't think Dion Jordan alone is going to be able to replace Michael Bennett. He was a great pass rusher, but even more than that, he was a great run stuffer. And I can't imagine Jordan, given his size, is going to be able to fill that role immediately. And the unfortunate thing for the Seahawks is that if their defense falls apart, their offense is really going to rely on Russell Wilson and his ability to stay upright, which has been a struggle for them over the last 2 years. They've dealt with so many injuries to their offensive line. So they really were able to rely on their defense, even with the injuries last year. They had to, given the status of the trenches on offense. So it seems weird that they're shopping people, and when news like this breaks that people are wanting to trade somebody, and everyone knows it, that means you're going to get less for these individuals as far as your return. I know that Bennett was a little bit older, but they only got a 5th-round pick and a receiver that hardly anyone will have ever heard of even. So you talk about a guy with that kind of talent, and that's the only return that you get. You're not going to get a 1st and a 3rd for Richard Sherman or Earl Thomas like some of these people might expect, because if people know they're wanting to get rid of them, they're not, or if they're possibly going to release them like the rumor is with Sherman, they're going to get pennies on the dollar for their value. So it'll be interesting to see where these players end up, and I hope for their sake, for players of their talent caliber, that they end up on winning teams, and or they all go to Cleveland and they turn that franchise around, one or the other.
Yeah, a fun fact on the Bennett move, I heard that the Patriots actually offered a better draft compensation for him, but they sent him to Philly. I believe the plan was to team up the Bennett brothers in New England, and then once the Michael Bennett trade fell through, they moved on from Martellus Bennett. Patriots also getting rid of him. The Bears release linebacker Willie Young, and then place the transition tag on Kyle Fuller at $13 million. Stoyo, are you happy that the Bears are keeping Fuller and moving on from Young?
Yeah, I mean, he's not the best QB out there, CB, and he could have made a lot more interceptions because they definitely threw the ball at him last year.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that it wasn't the regular franchise tag, it was the transition tag, so he comes at not a bad $13 million contract. So at least it gives him another year to build on this previous year.
Yeah, I know that Pro Football Focus rated Kyle Fuller pretty high. You don't always see it visually on the game, and you like to see him get more interceptions. But pretty good at pass defenses and stuff like that. Another guy, former Bears and Jets running back Matt Forte, calls it a career, officially retiring from the NFL. Forte signs a one-day deal to retire as Chicago Bear. All-time great. Stoyo, what do you make of Forte's career?
The best Bears running back I ever witnessed playing live, and probably the second best running back in the franchise. Unfortunately, he came close to breaking 10,000 rushing yards, and I would have liked to see him reach that, but he came maybe a few hundred yards shy of that.
Yeah.
He could have played another couple seasons, but he decided to at least sign a one-day deal to retire as a Bear.
Yeah, it's nice to see him show the Bears some love. I think that his body started to betray him towards the end, too many injuries. But a good long career and a lot of damage done in those years. Gavin, what do you make of Forte retiring? I know you saw him play a lot being in the same division.
Yeah, it's I always had a lot of respect for him. Always worried when the ball got in his hands. He could always make a big play. The ability to be almost as good a receiver out the backfield as he was between the tackles always made you a little nervous seeing him back there. But a lot of respect for him and his game, and I always like seeing players who spend the majority of their time in one city, but finish it off even with these one-day contracts.
Yeah.
So a lot of respect for him, and Father Time always wins, and unfortunately he happened to catch up with Forte now. So a lot of respect, and sad to see him go, but got to make room for all the young bucks.
Yep, absolutely. And Father Time usually comes a little quicker for these running backs, so glad to see him last in the league as long as he did. Go ahead.
Let me just add something to this. Matt Forte in 10 seasons had over 1,400 yards of total scrimmage, while AP in the 11th season had 14,000, and O.J. Simpson had 13,000. So
Wow.
Forte overpassed those guys in less time.
Nice, that's impressive. Another veteran running back, the Panthers release Jonathan Stewart, expecting to provide a bigger role for running back Christian McCaffrey. Last season, the Panthers' leading rusher was Cam Newton with 754 yards. Stoyo, do you believe Jonathan Stewart has anything left in the tank? Maybe he could go to a team like Seattle or something towards the end here?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. A lot of years, a lot of mileage on his tires.
Yeah, it was a good career, though.
Yeah. What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, I think it's a similar situation. You got a guy that's been playing for a really long time, and actually the same number of years as Forte. He had 1,700 carries, and even fewer than Forte, actually. So that's probably due to him splitting time with D'Angelo Williams for the first 5 or 6 years of his career. But yeah, still a lot of carries under his belt. He's going to be 31 here in a few days. So that's 30 is usually the clipping point for most running backs that have started for a good number of years. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to revitalize his career. I know he's been visiting Seattle, and some talks of him going there, but
he's got to be better than Lacey, right?
You would think, but just by default, I mean, pretty sure Stoyo could be better than Lacey.
I'll take it, absolutely.
The Dolphins wide receiver Jarvis Landry signs his franchise tag worth $16.2 million. Miami gives his agent permission to seek a trade, and I think that teams like the Redskins or the 49ers could be good fits for Landry. Some good quarterbacks there. The Jaguars inform wide receiver Allen Robinson that he will not be franchise tagged. Jacksonville will have a week to sign him to a contract. Otherwise, Robinson will become a top-tier free agent. Stoyo, is Allen Robinson someone that you would look at to possibly bring to Chicago to help with the receiving core for Trubisky?
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
He's a great wide receiver, but he's coming off of injury. And the team that has been helping him this entire time recover from that injury has been watching him for all this time, and that they choose not to sign him to a contract.
Yeah.
To me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, with these guys like Allen Robinson, possibly Jarvis Landry have been rumored to the Bears. I'll give you a guy I wouldn't mind in Chicago would be Jordan Matthews at wide receiver. Always been a fan of that guy, going back to his days at I believe it was Vanderbilt. Gavin, what do you make of Allen Robinson?
I think that he's still got some good years ahead of him. He's talented. He's only 25, so it'll be interesting to see him paired with a quarterback not named Blake Bortles and seeing what he can do. I hope he doesn't go to the Bears.
Yeah.
I don't want Trubisky to have any weapons, but I think he's gonna command a pretty high contract when he does go, because he's probably the best, if not second best, free agent wide receiver out there right now since Landry has been franchised.
Yeah, it was a good point. Speaking of, you talked about it last week, Gavin, how you thought that it would be good for a guy like Odell Beckham to go to preseason, go to the training camp, get reps with his team, especially a new coach. Speaking of that, the Steelers franchise tag running back Le'Veon Bell for $14.5 million for 2018. Bell was seeking a long-term deal and responded that he will skip training camp and preseason, just like he did last year until he gets a deal, and pretty much said he'll see the team week 1. What do you make of Bell's strategy here, not saying that he's not going to be around at all until week 1?
I think it's a pretty bad move. If you look at him last year and see how he looked in the first few weeks, 3.2, 3.2, 4.1, 4.1, and 3.1 yards per carry in all of those games. So I think that it's a bad move, and if you're looking to sign a big deal, whether it's with the Steelers or with a different team, you need to show that you're willing to be a team player, willing to come in and make some sacrifices, and put in the work that you need to be the best that you can be, and be as beneficial to your team as possible. And I think it's unfortunate that he's acting out in this way. I am 100% behind him in wanting to get a long-term deal, but I think that I just don't think this is the way to go about doing it.
Yeah, it seems to be the new way of thinking with some of these guys. Like, if they don't get the deal they want, screw them. They're not going to go to any of the voluntary stuff, and they'll be there when it's mandatory, when the games officially start. Seems to be the new mindset. Stoyo, what do you make of Le'Veon Bell's decision?
I understand it, but I don't think he's actually going to sit out till that time.
Yeah.
It's going to cost him a lot of money. He's trying to get paid.
You think he'll be at training camp?
Maybe not right away, but
yeah,
he will be there for the third game of the preseason, I believe.
Nice.
When is the main game where all the starters play?
Yeah.
Personally, I think he's the best running back in the league right now.
Yep.
But it is hard to overpay for a back. To spend that much money from your salary cap. He is promised $14 million this year. And the second highest paid running back besides him will be LaShawn McCoy at $9 million.
Wow.
So that is a huge gap, and it is hard to win with a great back nowadays. In the last 8 Super Bowl, there was only one first-round winning running back, and that was Marshawn Lynch.
Wow.
Besides that, the starting running back have been an undrafted free agent, a 5th-round pick, a 4th-round pick, another undrafted, and a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, it's crazy, the evolution of the running backs in the game. Not too many of them are going as high as they used to, and it seems that you can get a pretty good option later on in the draft, or even undrafted. The Rams making a ton of moves. We got to talk about the LA Rams. They trade Pro Bowl defensive end Robert Quinn to the Dolphins for an undisclosed draft pick. That's a cap clearing move by the Rams. Quinn registered 32 tackles, 8.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles in 2017. The Rams also franchise tagged safety LaMarcus Joyner, and that means that wide receiver Sammy Watkins will now be a free agent as well. Then the Rams also trade linebacker Alec Ogletree and a 7th-round pick to the Giants for a 4th and a 6th-round pick. The Rams, like I said, the Rams have been really busy. The Rams also signed former Packers corner Sam Shields, attempting to come back from concussion issues. And then the big story in LA, breaking news tonight, the Rams trade a 5th-round pick to the Broncos for corner Aqib Talib to go with Marcus Peters. That's a dynamic 2 corners right there. They'll shut down the field. The Rams are officially moving on from corner Tremaine Johnson, who they franchise tagged the last 2 seasons. Peters and Talib combined will make $4 million less than Johnson did last season at $16.7 million. And let's Gavin, what do you make of these moves that the Rams are doing? And that puts a pretty nasty secondary in LA now.
Yeah, especially if Sam Shields can stay healthy and stay unconcussed. You're talking about Sam Shields, Aqib Talib, and Marcus Peters as your
3
starting cornerbacks. That's pretty insane. So if those guys can all stay healthy, they can have a pretty formidable secondary. It's kind of strange to see them trade the captain of their defense, Alec Ogletree.
Yeah.
But he's kind of been up and down. He's shown he has a lot of talent, and he's shown that at times. And then you've seen him miss some easy tackles. So they traded up for him to pick him in the 1st round the year he was drafted. And definitely deserved it, but hasn't played up to that talent according to them, because they traded him for essentially they got a 4th and 6th round pick for him, which isn't much for the captain of your defense. And also to lose Robert Quinn is a bit surprising to me. Guy's been really talented, 1st round pick the Lions could have had other than that Ebron guy. We'll talk about that anymore. But a bit of a shocking move to me to trade him away.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see who they plan on replacing him with.
Yep. Stoyo, what do you make of the Rams and all this moves? I mean, Peters and Talib now. That's a crazy secondary.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It seems that the Seattle Seahawks have passed the torch to the LA Rams for the NFC West.
Yeah.
I think this is the end of the Legion of Boom, and now I think I have to come up with a nickname for that sick defense.
Yeah, now you're putting on the field. You're putting Aaron Donald, Talib, Marcus Peters, Todd Gurley on the other side of the ball. There's a lot of skilled players there. Plus, you got Wade Phillips at DC. That could be a definite recipe for success. Stoyo, what do you make of this? Pro Football Talks Mike Florio tweets, quote, "So if Aqib Talib rips someone's chain off, will Marcus Peters then throw it in the stands?" But how far do you think the Rams can go with this core?
They definitely can go to the NFC Championship game and battle for a place in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And the NFC West just continues to get better. The Bills have agreed to a 2-year deal with running back Chris Ivory from Jacksonville to help boost their running back situation. The Eagles say that quarterback Nick Foles is available, but they would like at least a first-round pick in return. Gavin, where do you think would be a good fit for Nick Foles?
That's tough, especially for a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Most of the teams that are needing a quarterback right now are probably picking relatively high. I wonder if the Eagles are willing to take a first-round pick in a later draft, possibly next year's draft, because if they could, if a team that needs a quarterback were able to acquire Foles this year, that you would assume that first-round pick would lose some value. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know what's going on with Tyrod Taylor and whether he's still going to be in Buffalo or not. But Buffalo could be a good spot for Foles. He's got a good running game there in McCoy. He's got a talented receiver in Kelvin Benjamin to throw to, and got a pretty good offensive line there. So that would be a pretty good spot for him. Denver could be another good spot. They're going to need a quarterback, and if they're out of the Kirk Cousins race, they'll look for a cheaper option. And they're a pretty good team. Before they traded Aqib Talib away, so maybe not so much now, as their defense is starting to fall apart a little bit. But that could be another spot, another team that needs a quarterback.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see Nick Foles also being in the hunt for the Arizona Cardinals job. And Case Keenum is also a guy out there looking for a spot in one of those teams as well. Free agent DN Muhammad Wilkerson visits the Green Bay Packers. It's the last thing we want to hear. The Patriots released tight end Martellus Bennett, freeing up $6 million in cap room. And the Titans have released running back DeMarco Murray and will go forward with Derrick Henry as their lead back. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys end up. Stoyo, what do you make of this quote? ESPN's Max Kellerman says the Colts should trade rehabbing quarterback Andrew Luck to the Browns. Cleveland giving up 4 draft picks, including 2 first rounds. He says it would be an instant rebuild for Indy and an instant franchise quarterback for Cleveland. Does that sound like a good idea to you, Stoyo?
Not when he is hurt.
Yeah.
You cannot give that many picks away on someone that might be back.
That would be a typical Cleveland move right there.
Yeah.
What do you think, Gavin?
Yeah, I had a conversation with my coworkers today about this, actually, and I completely agree with Stoyo. I think it'd be stupid for Cleveland to trade for a quarterback that might not be coming back, and I think it would be equally as stupid for the Colts to trade away a quarterback of Andrew Luck's caliber that is not hurt. They go into rebuilding mode, but how many quarterbacks do we see come out of the draft and are not good?
Yeah.
We see quarterbacks go to different teams and are not good. And we know that quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. You have a top 5 quarterback when healthy, and you're willing to trade him away for any amount of picks. It's not enough.
Yeah.
We saw the Redskins trade 3 first-rounders to move up and get Robert Griffin III, and he didn't turn out. And look at where that franchise would be in an even worse spot than it is now if Kirk Cousins didn't happen to turn out, which nobody saw coming because he didn't get drafted in the first round. I don't care what anyone says, no one saw this coming. So they got lucky. They got bailed out by a lucky quarterback draft. Otherwise, they would be drafting in the top 5 every year, just like Cleveland is now. You don't trade a franchise quarterback. It's one of the dumbest things you can do in the NFL.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you have a franchise quarterback, keep him. That's like gold in the NFL. Regardless.
There's Chargers, how that Drew Brees Super Bowl win in New Orleans feels.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get to some NFL Combine performances. Penn State running back Saquon Barkley impresses, generating some serious buzz. He was projected to go around the 4 spot, but after an impressive combine, a lot of people have him going 2 to the Giants and possibly even going number 1 overall to the Cleveland Browns. Barkley ran a 4.440, and at 6 foot 233, he's only the second running back that size to run that good a time. Saquon is attempting to become the first running back taken with the number 1 overall pick since another Penn State running back, Kyjana Carter, in 1995 by the Cincinnati Bengals. Gavin, would you consider taking Saquon Barkley with the number 1 overall pick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely would, especially considering that Cleveland has the number 4 pick as well. Unless they are really sold on one of the quarterbacks in this draft and they're convinced that he is their franchise quarterback, I would take Barkley with that first overall pick, assuming that they put someone other than Deshaun Kaiser behind center for them with that 4th overall pick, or able to sign somebody in free agency. You need to surround your quarterback with talent, and you're not going to find a better help in this draft than Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I think if you're Cleveland and you want to change your identity and you want to change, get rid of the 0-16 thoughts, what better way to do that than to draft a quarterback and a running back that high in the draft, and those are your 2 future stars to build around going forward, and the last year's a complete distant memory. Then, Stoyo, are you on the same page? Do you think Saquon Barkley is a good investment at the number 1 overall pick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He really sold me at the combine. He's an elite running back, one of the best prospects in the last 20 years or so. So if I was Cleveland, I would make him the number 1 pick for sure.
Nice.
Either sign Cousins and draft a tackle, or then sign a rookie at number 4 QB. But Saquon Barkley is one great prospect, and you want to draft someone elite regardless of position.
Yep. Best player available.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Somehow I see Cleveland messing it up and ending up with a quarterback. We'll see what they do with the number 1 overall pick. We'll see how they handle the situation, but regardless, Barkley looks like a transcendent player in this league, a guy who could really impact on the field. UCF linebacker Shaquem Griffin runs a 4.3840 flying past his competition. It's the fastest 40 time for a linebacker since 2006, and the same 40 time as his brother, Seahawks corner Shaquille Griffin, who's a cornerback, by the way. Linebacker and corner with the same 40 time. Shaquem also impresses in the bench press and is attempting to become the first one-handed player in the NFL's modern era. Gavin, are you sold on Shaquem Griffin being able to impact on the field even despite having one hand?
Yeah, I don't think that the lack of hand alone is enough to keep him off the field.
Yeah.
Jason Pierre-Paul, Paul Pierre, whatever his last name is, he blew off 3 of his fingers, so now he plays with a club all the time, and he's still able to be productive.
Yep.
So I think that you're able to wrap his hand up give him a little club, he'll still be able to rush the passer effectively. That kind of speed in a linebacker is
insane.
Is almost unheard of. He's a little bit lighter, only 227 pounds. It's a little bit light for a linebacker, but he's got the talent, and he's obviously worked his butt off over the years to be able to play in a Division I school like UCF. So tons of respect to him, and I am cheering for him more than anybody else in this draft.
Yeah, imagine a guy with his size playing like a hybrid safety / linebacker position. That guy could lay some people out and have some major impact. Stoyo, are you a Shaquem Griffin fan, and you think that he can make impact on the NFL level?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that speed is key. The league has turned into such a speed league that you need to have these athletes that can cover a lot of the field. And I would almost play him as a safety.
Yeah.
And just be probably an all-pro safety within a few years.
Yeah, I believe.
Because under the right coaching, this could be wonders.
Yeah.
His goal was to rep 225 pounds 6 times, and he did 20 reps.
Wow.
So,
yeah, and that to me just shows all heart. That this guy's not only a great athlete, but he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder and a lot of heart and trying to prove the doubters wrong. It's hard not to like this guy.
The speed, just for some perspective, the 4.38 is the fastest of all the linebackers at this year's combine. Only one other linebacker even ran in the 4.4s. Everyone else was 4.5 and higher.
Wow.
So that's how much faster he was than everybody else in his field.
That's crazy.
He's in wide receiver, speed, running back, and cornerback range, which for a linebacker is crazy.
Come to Chicago, Shaquem. We need you. All right. Wyoming quarterback and projected number 1 overall pick, Josh Allen. In the combine, he showed not only incredible arm strength, but especially on the deep ball, but also accuracy on the short and intermediate routes. He also showed improved footwork and arm mechanics. He's 6'5", 233, and he's got the build and the arm strength to be a future NFL star. But the big concern is never had a season of a completion percentage above 56 in 3 years at Wyoming. So that's yet to be seen, although I think in my prediction is Josh Allen's the best quarterback on the board, but it doesn't come without some risk. Stoyo, what do you think of Josh Allen? Would you draft him?
I would not.
You would not?
I would not pick him in the first round.
Wow.
I think that
the passing, the accuracy problems, you're not a fan of, huh?
I am not a fan of. He has arm strength. Yeah, that 70-yard pass was a thing of beauty, but no one was rushing him. This already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not that impressed. Yeah, arm strength is fine, but look at Jamarcus Russell. He also had arm strength. To me, when you cannot complete the ball in college, that means a lot.
Yeah.
The only good starting QB that had sub 60% completion in college has been Matthew Stafford.
Wow.
Everyone else pretty much has not turned out.
Yeah, and you're talking about a quarterback coming out of the SEC with less than 60%. Josh Allen's doing less than 60% in Wyoming. So a big difference there. Gavin, what do you think about Josh Allen?
I think that Rhett Bomar is what I think about Josh Allen. You know Rhett Bomar?
No.
Oh, you don't?
Nope.
Oh, that's because he was great in college. Huge arm, sub 60% completion percentage. Didn't start in the NFL ever.
Wow.
That's Josh Allen for me. I think that Josh Allen, the one advantage he has, he's a little bit more mobile than Bomar was when he came out in 2008. But it's arm strength alone does not make a good NFL quarterback. You need to have accuracy, anticipation, able to read NFL defenses. It's a lot more than just being able to chuck it 80 yards. So I don't think I wouldn't spend a first round pick on him if I were any of these teams. I think he has the highest bust potential out of the top 5 QBs in this year's draft.
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm a Josh Allen fan. I think that he can get it done, but the accuracy issues are obviously a problem. But you do want a big quarterback, a quarterback with a strong arm that can see over the line and make plays. And we'll see. I mean, if Josh Allen isn't going to be a guy worth drafting, I'm not really sold on any of these quarterbacks coming out. I see issues with all of them. I mean, let's talk about UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen, who made some impressive throws, made some not so impressive throws, missed some intermediate and post routes. Experts are saying nothing concerning about mechanics and footwork, more so just arm accuracy at times. I'm not a believer in Josh Rosen. I saw him play a decent amount at UCLA, and he's athletic. He's a decent athletic quarterback, but I'm just not sold on the accuracy. Gavin, what do you think of Josh Rosen?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got some accuracy issues and some decision-making issues. But I think even more so for teams or his concerns off the field. He's cocky, and rightfully so. He's a great college quarterback, and he's outspoken. He doesn't hide what he believes, and if it happens to be controversial, that doesn't matter to him. He's still going to speak his mind, which can be detrimental to the face of your franchise, which is who you're drafting if you take him at quarterback. So I think that's going to be could knock him down some people's boards. But I think there are some teams who are picking high, like a certain other GM who was a cocky quarterback coming out of college.
Yeah.
That could take him in Denver.
Oh, I thought you were going Cleveland there. That's a good, yeah. What do you think, Stoyo? Are you a Josh Rosen fan? Would you draft him high?
I am. I think he's the second best QB in this year's class. I'm a believer,
Yeah.
and I'd be willing to draft him in the top 5 for sure.
So you're a believer. You think Josh Rosen is the chosen one?
No, the second chosen one.
That was his nickname in college.
I'd like to point out that the combine for QBs is not as important as for different positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
The number 1 prospect did not even throw at the combine.
Yep.
So to me, the combine is more to find out about a wide receiver or a safety where you can measure speed. But what the QB does is really what he does on the field, not really at the combine.
Yeah, and you made a good point that Sam Darnold didn't even throw. Another guy that didn't perform all of it was Louisville quarterback Lamar Jackson. Everyone knows about his athleticism and his great speed at that position, but he refused to run in the 40. Cites people asking him to work out being a wide receiver. He said he was considering running the 40 until all that talk came up, and then he decided not to. He said he's going to save that for his pro day at Louisville. And he did throw the ball, but he's an interesting project to me. He never played in a pro style. He never had to drop back. He was always in shotgun. So you're seeing some footwork issues. You're seeing some arm mechanic issues. No doubt he's a great elite level athlete, but I think he's got some to work on in the passing game. But if you're going to draft Lamar Jackson, I'd say build a system around him. Build a system that makes him feel comfortable and that he can succeed in. Gavin, what do you make of Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I completely agree with you with your last statement about building a system around him. I think we're starting to see that with a lot of quarterbacks coming in that have struggled elsewhere. We saw it with Case Keenum this year, with Nick Foles even, Jared Goff. All these guys that we'd seen struggle in the past, they get new coaching, a new opportunity. They're able to come in, they're able to thrive. And so I think that we're starting to see a trend in the NFL where coaches will cater to their young quarterbacks' abilities rather than trying to make their quarterback fit inside their particular system. And we're seeing it be relatively effective. So I think that Lamar Jackson is a perfect candidate for that kind of situation. If you can find a coach and a coordinator, they're willing to do that, willing to change their playbook and their game style to fit, an athlete of Lamar Jackson's talent. Then I think they have the highest chance of success. And as far as him not running at all during the combine, I feel like that's very irrelevant. No one's going to remember it when he runs a 4.340 at his pro day.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're going to talk about it now, but later on it won't matter. Stoyo, what do you make of Lamar Jackson? Do you think that he can succeed at the NFL level? I know that we know a Broncos fan that wants his Broncos to draft Lamar Jackson. He's all in. He thinks he's the next Michael Vick. I think that maybe he doesn't have quite the arm that Vick has, but all the athleticism, and he can make big plays at any level. There's no doubting that. Stoyo, do you think Lamar Jackson will succeed at the NFL level?
I think he will.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I think he's the third best QB coming in this draft class. I have him above Josh Allen and Sam Bakerfield. I think he has the highest ceiling, and I would take a shot in the late teens, in the first round, early 20s, to get a starting QB at a decent price for his rookie deal.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll tell you my top 5 quarterbacks right now. I'm gonna put Josh Allen number 1. I know you guys are gonna disagree with me on my whole top 5. Josh Allen would go number 1. Number 2, I'd probably have Sam Darnold, but I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. I think that I saw him turn the ball over too much at USC and not always show up in the biggest game. Josh Rosen would be 3. Lamar Jackson would be 4. Who's a 5th quarterback that I'm missing here?
Sam Bakerfield.
Oh, Baker Mayfield. Actually, Baker Mayfield I have up there. Baker Mayfield's probably my number 2. And then Sam Darnold, then Josh Rosen, then Lamar Jackson. I think that Baker Mayfield brings some intangibles like heart and attitude and leadership. And I think you put Baker Mayfield in a huddle, and he's going to get the attention of his team, and he's going to command the huddle, and he's going to lead them. He's got the ability to lead in pressure situations. But we'll see. Lots of time to go left here. Gavin, who is your top 5 quarterbacks coming out?
My top quarterback would be actually I'm gonna go in reverse to make things interesting.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
go with Josh Allen, who I've already shit all
I
over
agree.
for enough. So we'll just leave that at that. My number 4 quarterback would be Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
I know that he has the it factor that you referred to, but I think that Johnny Manziel also had the it factor coming out of college. I think they have a lot of similarities. They're good passers, especially the intermediate and short throws. I think Mayfield is a little bit better at throwing his receivers open, has better touch passes, but I also think that he has some attitude that could come into contention with his coaches. Not being a instant success in the NFL could be a problem for him. But I certainly don't think that he's incapable of being a starter. Again, gets the right situation, put some good talent around him, he could definitely be a Pro Bowler. My 3rd quarterback is Lamar Jackson. The athleticism is undeniable, but there's definitely some accuracy issues there. And also, for as much as he runs, he's got to learn to hold on to the ball, and also has to
Protect himself too.
Not get hurt. For
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you're putting yourselves out there and making yourself a runner at only 205 pounds. You're looking to get hurt. My number 2 quarterback, I go Josh Rosen. I think he's got a ton of talent. He's got some accuracy issues, but those can be worked on. I think he's got his mechanics are great. and he's shown leadership at UCLA. He just needs to make some better decisions, be a little bit more accurate. So then my number one would be Sam Darnold out of USC. I know he struggled a lot this year compared to his previous year, but he also lost Juju Smith-Schuster, which was a big talent there on his team. And he also had some issues with turnovers, fumbles included. But I think that, again, those are things that can be worked on that are easier than the accuracy issues that I see with people like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Lots of interesting picks to be made upcoming here in the draft. Stoyo, what is your top 5 coming up?
It's the exact same one as Gavin.
Oh, yeah.
Would you guys just meet up together secretly to plot against my top 5? I see what you guys are doing here.
To me, this is an obvious top 5.
So, all right, spell yours out again.
At number 5, I have Josh Allen.
Okay.
I would not draft him in the first round. I wouldn't even draft him.
Brett Bomar got drafted. You just use a late round pick on the guy.
Yeah, but what's the point of drafting someone in like the 4th round or something?
Ask Tom Brady about that.
That's the 6th round.
Kirk Cousins was 4th round, I believe.
Yeah, he was actually.
Yeah.
But that hardly ever happens. So I would not even grab Josh Allen. Then I have Sam Bakerfield. I don't believe one bit in him. He is going to be a Johnny Manziel out there. He's slightly better.
I need to jump in here and defend my boy Baker. I think that he's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. I think that he's tired of people doubting him. I think that you put him in the right situation. I think the perfect situation for Baker Mayfield would be Denver with that defense and with those weapons already in place. And then give him a guy to coach him up like John Elway. Give him a guy that he can talk to about playing at that level in Elway. And Mayfield's either going to do one of the two things. He's either going to pull a Manziel and be out of the league in 2 years, and people are going to say it was never going to work because of his attitude and stuff like that. Either that or he's going to be a contender, and he's got to prove it. He's got to work hard, and he's got to want it. I think that he's got less off-the-field issues than Manziel had coming out. So I don't think that that's a great comparison. But we'll see.
I'm reading a scouting report of Sam Bakerfield, which is now his name for the rest of the time.
Yes. Still over there.
Yeah, I don't know why you're calling him Sam Bakerfield, but I absolutely love it. That's what I'm gonna call him from here on out. But here's a scouting report I'm reading about his. Gritty gunslinger, excellent mobility to dodge sacks, escape pressure, extend plays with his feet, and throws well on the run. Also picks up critical yards on the ground and adds the value of being a dangerous threat on 3rd and short and 3rd and manageable. Mayfield is undersized in the NFL with just average arm strength. He can have issues reading defense because of his height, throwing into tight windows, and have a big adjustment to learn to work under center, call plays, and operate a pro-style offense.
Yeah.
That sounds exactly like Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, and in the same way, you're going to need to build a system around him. You can't just plug him into any system and expect him to be a prototypical drop-back passer. That's not who he is, and he's a little bit in the same boat as Lamar Jackson. They're going to have a system that benefits them, have the perfect situation, and have excellent coaching to get the most out of them. But I'm a believer. NFL draft prospect Michigan's defensive tackle Maurice Hurst, diagnosed with a heart condition at the NFL Combine, did not work out and left to undergo further testing and determine the seriousness of the condition. Hopefully everything is okay and comes back okay, and he can continue working towards his dream of playing in the NFL. Stories like these, you kind of put aside your team interest and just hope for the best for the player and the individual. He's put in so much work to get this far. And on the bright side, in 2013, we had a similar issue with draft prospect Utah's defensive tackle Star Lutulele, dealt with the same issue but was cleared and then drafted 14th overall by the Panthers. So best wishes to Maurice Hurst. NFL referee Ed Hockley calls it a career after 28 seasons as a ref. Hockley worked multiple playoff games and 2 Super Bowls in his career that started in 1990. And one of the most notable games he officiated was the Leon Lett Thanksgiving touchback game versus the Dolphins. And he said he had, quote, no idea what was going on when that happened. So, yeah, you guys got anything to add?
It's sad to see Ed Hercules no longer being an official.
I've never heard that before. That was a good one.
It's always enjoyed watching him officiate. Jeff Triplett also retiring.
Yeah.
Not so sad to see that douchebag leave. But it's going to be weird not seeing him on Sundays officiating.
Yeah, and the difference is Hockley actually got the calls right for the most part, and Hockley, Hockley, way to go out on top with that performance in the playoffs.
Yeah. I also would like to add that whatever I said about Sam Bakerfield also applies to Baker Mayfield.
Is that his alter ego?
Yeah.
You guys are wrong. It's all about Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. That's the future of the NFL right there. So
those two are going to be out of the league in 2 years.
Hey, I was all about Deshaun Watson last year, and he had success before the knee injury, so we'll see.
Yeah, so was I. I thought Deshaun Watson was a clear pick in the top 5. I guess some other people had different ideas.
Yeah, those other people being Bears management.
Yeah, looking at you, Pace.
So, all right, well, another excellent week. We've got some major guests coming up here in the near future, so stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on that. And we'll be getting more and more into free agency, more and more into the draft coming up soon. So thanks for coming on, guys, and we'll be back on next week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment or a like. And good job, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Thanks again.
On that note, we'll see you again next week. Peace out.